Today on the Pitchbook Podcast, we have relief pitcher Missy Pinkham. She is pitching Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Metcalf. Batter up! All right, Missy, relief
Hey, how's it
pitcher.
going?
Good. Thanks for hopping on. We're excited to have you. I don't know if people don't know you, they're gonna love your energy and what you bring. We're excited to have you on here. So there's a lot of pressure here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I am welcoming the pressure, welcoming
good.
it with open arms.
That's good.
Just embrace it.
Yeah. So just a little background. Missy is a friend of ours. She's been a family friend, or her family has been friends with both Zach and myself for a long time. And your dad suggested that you hop on here. When he said, I guess you're taking a public speaking class, and he said you should hop on the podcast with Matt and Zach. What were your first thoughts? What did you think?
I was like, oh boy, I don't read. I don't know about that, Dad. He's like, do that one book you love. I'm like, all right, sounds good. So here I am talking about Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Okay, well, one of the things about this podcast is we typically don't ever know what people are going to pitch us. And I've never heard of this book, Chop Wood, Carry Water. I'm intrigued. How did you find this book?
Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit of a long story, but I'll kind of shorten it up for you. So in high school, I took this leadership class. It was kind of like public speaking, honestly. And he made us read this book, and I was like, what the freak? It was like not that long of a book, but we spent like probably the whole semester learning about this book and reading this book and doing presentations about this book and the principles taught in it. And I was like, all right. And then as I like went through out high school, like these principles that were taught in this book applied to my life way more than I thought they ever would. And like I remember stuff from that class even today. Like he made us do like almost like a growth statement. That was a quote from the book. It's I still remember it. So one of the quotes were, anything that happens today is in my best interest to learn and grow. And the other statement is I'm trying to remember. Oh, my value comes from who I am, not from what I do. And those two quotes have stuck with me since like forever.
Awesome.
And so yeah, that's just a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, so you read this in high school. You said it's a pretty easy read. Is it something you've reread over time or just go back to?
Yeah, I actually reread it or re-listened to it for this podcast. And there is a sequel to the book. It's like the same, but different story.
Yeah.
It's like a sequel, I don't know. That I own the sequel to because I enjoy it a little bit more, like the story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is like the basic, like they suggest that you read this one first before you do the sequel, which the sequel is called Pound the Stone, and that one is amazing as well. So
yeah, I was wondering if that was going to be like polish the stone, hike a mountain. What was just some random things to do? I don't know. Cross a river. I don't know what it would be, but plant a seed. I don't know.
Plant a seed, grow a tree.
Okay, cool. So tell us. So what is the book like? Is it a story? Tell us about the book. What is it? What is it like?
Yeah, so the book is about a boy that I think it's his brother or something gets sick, and his brother can't really like talk or walk anymore, but he still communicates with him. But while they were growing up, they would watch Jackie Chan, and like when he could talk and stuff. And he just aspired to be this like sensei archer man, right? And he's like, I got to do this for my brother. Like my brother would like die to like be able to do this. And so it kind of encouraged him to go on this journey. And so he goes on this journey with to become this sensei archer man. And his sensei teaches him like all these crazy life lessons in the process. So he shows up to the camp that he's at, like halfway across the world or something crazy. And the sensei's like, okay, like you're here to stay and it's going to be great. And you're going to learn how to be archer. But there's two things you have to do every single day. You have to chop wood and carry water. One, because there's no heating in our house. and two, there's no running water. So you're gonna have to do these things every single day. And so he's like halfway through and he's still chopping wood, carrying water every day. He's like, I haven't even shot an arrow since I've been here, and I've been here for like 8 weeks. I don't even know how long. And he just gets so frustrated. And so as the story goes on, he kind of teaches him the value of different principles, like, I don't know, like water the grass and it'll grow, like it's okay, like keep chopping wood, carry water, like just always go back to the basics. And as I was in my like high school class, he always talked about how important it is for like basketball players to like do the like most simple runs ever. That's what makes them great. And so the principle, I guess, behind the words chop wood, carry water is like the small things make the big difference. And so I don't know, that's just kind of like the basics of the title, but there's a lot of other little things that I can talk about a little bit later.
So
But
is it a true
yeah,
story? Oh, did this actually happen?
no, so it
Okay.
didn't. It's not a true story,
Okay.
but the print. It's like a more of like a self-help, self like motivational type book.
Yeah, like an
So the
allegory or
principles
something. Okay,
taught.
got it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So does he ever progress to become an archer? He's chopping wood, carrying water. It reminds me a little bit of the Karate Kid, where
Yeah,
you know you
exactly.
wax
Yeah,
on, wax off. You get good at the basic things, but while you're doing that, you're building this discipline in your mind of being of consistency and not failing in that in the simple things. Is that the
yeah.
progression of
No,
the
it's.
book?
I would say yeah. That's really simple. That's really similar. I think it is very much like Karate Kid. Um, I think I'm trying to remember, but at the end of the book, I think he becomes a sensei or works towards becoming a sensei to like teach other people these principles. But he does end up like going home and like hanging out with his family. But one thing that the sensei like told him before he left is like, don't like teach other people these principles. And he's like, what the heck? Like, what do you mean? He's like, because most people just want to feel like valued and loved and listened to, and like you can't just like force like these principles on them. He's like, all right. But I think if I remember, he ends up like progressing towards like wanting to teach people that come to him. Um, so that was like an important life lesson that was learned in it. So it's so cool. I
So
love it.
what do you think it is in the basics, like chopping wood, carrying water, that makes people great? Like why is that a powerful principle?
I love that you said that because that there's a lot of other things in it that I like took notes on as I was reading. Um, I would say like one focus that it even talks about is I guess a quote from it is that you can't play present if you focus on the outcome. Because I remember that like in the book he's like, when will I become an archer? When will I like do that? And the sensei's like, you have to chop wood, carry water. And he's like, you can't even do you're too old, like you can't even shoot an arrow. Like I bet you can't even do that. And the sensei's like, bet. And so at like 10 p.m. he tells him, he's like, hey, meet me here at 10 p.m. He's like, okay. He shows up, it's like pitch black outside. And he like breathes and like works on his stance and like draws the arrow. He like draws an arrow and then hits it like right into the target. And then he has another arrow, draws it, and like splits the first arrow in half. And it's like pitch black. So it's all about like his stance. And he was working on his stance for a super long time as well. And he's like, see, like you need to chop wood and carry water. Like it's all about your stance. It's all about like how you carry yourself. And so it's like if you can't practice perfect, how are you expected to like play perfect when the like moment counts? So I feel like in life in general, that is so important. Like if you can't practice the basic like necessities of life, I guess, then it makes everything like the outcome not as good as you would want it.
So how have you taken, I mean, obviously, Missy, you're not chopping wood and carrying water every day. You
Mm-hmm.
know, in
Yeah, no.
the modern life, we don't really have seasons. We live in air conditioned, heated homes. Life's so comfortable. How do you put those principles in place? Like, what are the basics, fundamentals that you try to deploy in your life? Does that make sense, the question?
No, no, that totally makes sense. I would say like there's a lot of different things in my life. Obviously, I'm not perfect at it. I don't think anyone is perfect at the like little things that you need to do, you know. But I would say like some principles that were learned in this book that helped me was like the grass is greener where you water it, like that kind of mentality. Like if you put effort into things like whatever it be, school, work, whatever, that if you keep watering those things, eventually like you will see results. I mean, one of the things that like this sensei talks about this story, and I'll just tell you guys it because it's so good. This story about it's like a principle of building your own house. So there's this architect, house builder man, and he builds all these amazing houses, amazing. And he builds all these amazing houses and he's like ready to retire. So he goes to his boss and he's like, hey, like, can I retire? Like, I'm done. Like, I built my last house that you wanted me to build, like, whatever. And his boss is like, no, like, you need to build one more. And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, I do not want to build another house. And he's like, no, please, like, we need you to do one more project. So he like goes along and like just everything's up to like code, but nothing is like the perfect house that he like usually builds, right? And then he like finally gets done with it, goes to his boss, and he's like, hey, like I'm done, like finished with the house, like I want to retire. And he's like, okay, but I have one more thing for you. And he's like, oh my gosh, like what is it? And he gives him this box. And he like takes his box and he opens it and there's a key inside of it. And he's like, what is this to? Like, what is this? He's like, that's the key to your house. Your house you just
Oh
built.
no.
And so he's like, oh, if I would have known that was my own house, I would have worked way harder, you know? And I feel like chop wood, carry water is exactly like that. Like if you put your effort into like everything you do, then like you never know the outcome. Sometimes you don't even know the outcome until like way later. But you're always building your own house. Like that's just something that stuck with me. I'm like, oh, because that would wreck me if that was me and I knew I was building my house and like it was just not the best house I could have built. That would like destroy me. So
That's a great principle. Like just whatever you're doing, whatever you put your hand to, do it well.
do it to your best ability or however you want to say it, you know.
So you're in school now. What do you how is this applying to you going to school and working on your degree?
That is a good question. You know, I have to keep reminding myself of this principle because I feel like, and I don't know if anyone in the podcast can relate to this, but even like people that have graduated can probably relate to this, is that you take these classes and you're like, well, there goes $1,000 of money. There goes $2,000. There goes $3,000 because I'm switching my major or whatever it might be. And I feel like rolling with the punches is like so crucial. But I know that like the classes I'm taking, like I meet friends and I like go to like things with these people that I just met. And like there's always something I get out of the class, you know, whether it be like not in my major or if it be in my major, just depends. Like there's always something I can learn from it. So
what was
yeah,
what was that first quote you said? Something about being present or like you don't
oh yeah.
Don't worry about the outcomes.
Yeah, that's what it was. Don't worry about the outcome.
Yeah. To play present, you must learn to train present. Or you can't play present if you focus on the outcome, something like that.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like
You can't play present.
your mind is somewhere else. It's somewhere in the future. But what really makes the future happen is where you're at today.
Yeah, exactly. And it really sucks like taking classes and you're like, I'm switching my major. My life is going to end. Like, no. But I realize like if I'm playing present, then I know that like I'll get something out of it, you know? Because if I'm not playing present, then I'm like, okay, there was no point of that, you know? So it's like having that mentality of like, okay, I have to play present and I can't focus on the outcome because that will just like make me go insane. But I don't know, that's one thing I feel like for sure, like change is hard and that helps with that, especially in like college and stuff. There's just so much change.
Yeah, it's basically I like what you said, roll with the punches, right? Like You never know what's going to happen. To be honest with you, unless you're doing something very specific, your degree isn't all that important. My brother-in-law is a programmer and he has a history degree. So, unless you're doing
That's crazy. Yeah.
something specific, like, that requires certifications and things like that, doctor, lawyer, financial planning, stuff like that, that's, very specific, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna be okay. I think to some degree, just getting the degree is a foot in the door at a lot of places. So you learn a lot on the job.
Yeah.
And I think, just to add to that, I have this really good friend that we met in our late teens, early 20s, and we both got married. I jumped right into my career, education, and he just kept going to school. He did his undergrad, then he went to and did a master's, and then he moved to England and did another master's there. And I remember in my mind thinking, hey, you got to like start a job sometime, like you got to, like, you can't go to school forever. And what I didn't realize was the long-term mindset that he had. Like, he was building a foundation for the rest of his life, and he wanted to make sure that that architecture, Missy, that you just talked about, was so
Mhm.
secure. And he felt like that education piece just had to be solid for him to then go on, kind of move in his career. So he got his first job once he finished like his second MBA, and he's done it really well. But it goes back to having, some people have what we call a high time preference. They want everything right now. I want my marriage right now.
Mhm.
I want a family right now. I want income right now. That's a high time preference. What I'm getting from you is like, focus on the fundamentals, the basics, but have a long time preference. Like, don't worry too much about the outcomes. If you're just focused on where you are right today and doing well today, it's like the future will take care of itself.
Yeah,
That
100%.
is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I would definitely
And
say, like, have a goal in mind, but don't focus on that goal. Like, you can focus on it to a degree, but when you are going about your everyday, like, focus on the present, you know?
Well, it's the
Walt Disney. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was gonna say it's the little goals that count, right? Like Jordan said, how do you score 40 points? It's like I just break it down by quarter, and do X number of points per quarter. And that's kind of like the carry water, right? Like this are fundamentals I do every single day that, quote unquote, build my own house. Um, that can apply either way, no matter what path you choose with education or whatever. Anyway, that's just kind of what it reminds me of.
That
Sorry.
that's one
Like
of
that.
those that's one of those quotes though you can walk around. My kids, they get sick of me here, and I have all these like little one-liners that I apply in every aspect of my life, and they just get,
That's such a dad
sometimes
thing to do.
it is a dad thing, and I do
Say,
it all the time. I'll just have like little one-liners, but the chop wood, carry water, that's going on the board. I have a quote wall with all of these quotes. Matt has seen it.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I think Matt has a quote on there.
I do. Well, not from me, but yeah,
Not from
I
not from
wrote
you.
a quote down. Yes,
You
it's
did.
true.
So chop wood, carry water is going to go on there. So, and just so you know, Missy, Walt Disney said, "Whatever you do, do it well." That's a direct quote.
oh, we love Walt. He's a good man.
He drew the best mouse, right? He invested in his craft, and I think he almost lost his company a couple times.
But now
Pretty
look at it
amazing.
now. They're making what, $800 a ticket?
Yeah.
Right.
That's insane. It's insane.
To shake hands with a man in a costume.
Of the best
Yeah,
drawn mouse
literally.
ever, though.
That's
Yeah, the
right.
best drum mouse. Come on.
He was
The
So
so good
place
at his
where dream
craft.
comes true. Dream comes
Yes.
true.
Well, what other stories do you have from the book? Or is there anything else that kind of popped
Oh,
out at
there's
you,
so many.
quotes or examples that are impactful?
Oh, yeah. So he's talking about, like, obviously we're kind of talking about the little things. Um, one of the things that he kind of talks about is like greatness. Okay, I'll just like have a little quote right here. Greatness is for the few who choose to do the dirty hard work. Greatness is not sexy. Is he always says that, like, greatness is not a sexy thing, because like the sensei, he's like some old archer man, right? I think of him as like a monk, like a little monk, you know. And they're like all like in the nature and stuff, and he I don't know, I just think like he does the basic, most simple things, and he always talks about you always want to be like everyone always wants to be the guy that drives the Lamborghini and is a billionaire. He's like everyone wants to be that, but he's like, but there are very few who choose to do the things that can get them there. And so like that's another little story that you just like basically, you know, it's not the journey to get to like success. I guess everyone defines success differently, but the journey to get there is going to not look like how you want it to look. And so that's another thing that I don't know, kind of stuck out to me as I was reading this book, is like dirty work is not going to look good. It's not sexy, is what he says.
Mm-hmm. So what, so you're all right. What would you rate the book, and like, what's the main principle that you want to apply?
I would say that, that's a good one. Me personally, I just love the building your own house.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely would say like play present and do the little things that get you to where you want to be.
Awesome. And then what are you going to rate it? A home run, triple, double, single? What's your rating for the book?
I would say the one right before the home run. What is that?
That's a triple. Yeah, a triple.
I don't know baseball. Sorry, guys.
It's a 3-pointer.
That's
it's
good.
A field goal.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
That one.
It's not the best in the world though, but you liked it. It looks like it's pretty short. I actually just bought it on Audible, so I'm gonna check it out. It's pretty short, so you've convinced me to purchase it. So I'm gonna check it out and let you know what I think.
I mean, Joshua Metcalf better give us some like I don't know, some insight on this, because it's like $6 on Audible. Like, it's so cheap, so everyone needs to get it. It's literally so good.
Cool.
So good. There's like a little sequel. It's called Pound the Stone as well. That one's a little thicker read, but I liked the story in it a little bit more.
Interesting. Okay.
So I don't know. It's like about this guy that goes and sells books in the summer, and kind of reminds me of summer sales type situation, but it's really good too. So I like that one.
So Joshua Metcalf, he's on Twitter at Joshua Metcalf. If the folks listening want to give him a follow.
Yeah, and we could probably reference that here or when the podcast comes out. Well, Missy, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate you being the relief pitcher and bringing a new book to our lives. I'm gonna check it out at least and let you know what I think. And thanks so much for coming on, everybody. Thanks for listening. Share the podcast with your friends. Tell them all about it. Give us a 5-star rating. Spread the word. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And let's get this podcast bigger, the biggest podcast in the world. Let's do it. Should we?
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, let's
It's gonna happen.
Hit that subscribe button. I don't even think I have those anymore, but
yeah, exactly. All right.